As we all know, Mick Schumacher will be in Formula 1 next year, signing a multi-year deal with Haas. And as great as it is to have the Schumacher name, Mick will also unfortunately draw the inevitable comparisons between him and his father, who of course won 7 championships and was my all-time favourite driver. So with that being said, can Mick Schumacher emulate Michael Schumacher's success? So we'll go through their careers after karting on the road to F1. So Mick Schumacher, after doing some testing in a Formula 4 car in 2014, started off as a 16-year-old kid in the Ardac Formula 4 Championship in 2015, where he did alright considering that this was his first competitive year in racing, and he even managed to pick up a win. He would finish 10th overall, but he did show signs of some true talent like his father, and in regards to Michael, well, he actually didn't start his racing career until he turned 19. So I'll continue to talk about Mick's career, who made a short appearance in the 2015-16 MRF Challenge Formula 2000, claiming 2 podiums in 4 races. The then 17-year-old competed once again in the Ardac Formula 4 and additionally in the Italian Formula 4 Championship. In Italian Formula 4, even though Mick Schumacher missed 5 races in the category, he would still be in the title hunt for most of the season, but those missed races would make the difference in the end, as he finished runner-up, but he did collect 5 wins and 10 podiums here. In the Ardac Formula 4, it was to be a similar story for Schumacher, who was in the title picture for a lot of the year, but he just wasn't able to produce enough to win the title, and would finish in second in the championship. Schumacher collected 5 wins and 12 podiums here, so it was still a great season for the young German. During the winter for the same year, he took part in a second season of the MRF Challenge Formula 2000 for the 2016-17 campaign, and while he did pick up 4 wins and 9 podiums, he still fell short in the overall standings and had to settle for 3rd thanks to multiple retirements. Schumacher, now being of legal age to drink, well, at least in Australia that's the case, then stepped up to the Formula 3 European Championship in 2017 and would drive for the Prema Power team, which was the same team he was with for 2016 and would continue to team up with until the end of 2020. Considering Schumacher was a rookie in Formula 3, he got off to a solid start for the season, regularly scoring points in the opening races and even scored a podium in the 5th race of the year at Monza with a 3rd place finish. Schumacher would still continue to regularly score points, albeit in the lower points scoring positions. Schumacher would only score points in 3 of the final 8 races of the season and went on to finish 12th overall. He was beaten by all of his other 3 teammates of Callum Ilott, Guanyu Zhou and Maximilian Gunther, but each of these drivers were either in the 2nd or 3rd season of the competition. Schumacher remained in European F3 in 2018, and it was clear to many that he had made serious improvements in his racecraft. Although he had a slow start to 2018 for the opening 5 races, his next 5 outings then resulted in 2 podiums courtesy of 2 3rd place finishes at the Hungaroring and Zandvoort. After a bit of an inconsistency patch just before the halfway mark, race 15 saw Schumacher claim his first ever win in F3 at Spa. 2 more wins in the next 4 events all of a sudden saw Schumacher catapult himself into title contention, with Schumacher now in a title battle with Dan Ticktum, Yuri Vips and Robert Schwartzman. His best form was perfectly timed in the back end of the season, where he went on a stretch of 5 consecutive victories. He would additionally finish second in 3 of the final 4 races. With a points tally of 365 points, this saw Mick win the 2018 Formula 3 European Championship at the age of 19. 19 was the same age as mentioned before, where Michael Schumacher began his proper racing career. He'd compete in both European and German Formula 4 competitions, where he finished 2nd and 6th respectively in the standings. Michael also competed in Formula Kuni and was absolutely dominant here, winning 9 of a possible 10 races and easily winning the category. Moving over back to Mick now, and he would move up to Formula 2 in 2019, and not only did he move into Formula 2, he also signed with the Ferrari driver program and did some testing for both Ferrari and Alfa Romeo as part of in-season testing. Before season start, he took part in the 2019 Race of Champions, where he notably beat Sebastian Vettel in the group stages of the competition. 3 of the first 4 races in F2 saw Schumacher score points, with the Baku sprint race in particular being impressive from the German, who went from 19th to 5th after a spin early on. He then unfortunately went 8 out of 9 races without scoring a point. That one-off race, however, he did achieve his career best finish in F2 with 4th at the Austrian sprint race. He didn't have to wait too long either to beat that career best, as Mick went on to win the sprint race at the Hungaroring. He'd scored just a total of 8 more points in the final 6 races of the year, as Schumacher ended up finishing 12th in the driver's standings with 53 points. He was comfortably better than teammate Sean Gillow, who only managed just the 15 points. Mick did this at age 20. Compare that to Michael as a 20-year-old, where he competed in the 1989 German Formula 3 Championship. Michael was in a very close championship fight with Karl Lindlinger and on and off track rival Heinz-Harald Frentzen. In the end, the 3 drivers were separated by a single point, with Karl Lindlinger winning the championship by that point. Schumacher had to settle for 3rd, since he had 1 fewer races than Frentzen. All 3 of these drivers would end up in F1, and with Schumacher being the youngest of them, you could tell that he was supremely talented from the performances in 1989. Back to Mick, and now 21, Mick Schumacher once again competed in Formula 2 in 2020, and while he didn't show dominance, Mick was really consistent where many others failed. In saying that, it did take him 5 races to clinch his first podium of the year. Some of this was due to bad luck, like that time his fire extinguisher of all things blowing up in his car in the second Austria sprint race. He would keep picking up points consistently and an occasional podium here and there. It wasn't until the sprint race in Spain where he'd pick up some great form. From the sprint race at Spain until the sprint race at Monza, which was a 5-race stretch, Schumacher would pick up a podium in each of these events, including his first win for the year at the Monza feature race, and he would win once again, not long afterwards as well, in the Sochi feature race. Although Schumacher didn't win another race, he scored enough points in the final races to hang on and become F2 champion with 215 points scored, 14 more than nearest challenger Callum Ilott. It was also announced just before the final round that Schumacher signed with Haas in F1 for 2021. While 21-year-old Michael in 1990 would predominantly compete in both the German Formula 3 and the World Sports Car Championship, where he made a few appearances with Jochen Mass and both won the final race of the season, which still enabled Schumacher to finish in the top 5 overall despite appearing in less than half of the season's events. But for the year, his attention was mainly on the German Formula 3. After a slow start to the opening 3 races, Schumacher would then win 5 of the next 6 to take control of the championship. A 4th and 2nd place finish in the final 2 outings comfortably saw Schumacher clinch the driver's title in 1990 as he signed a contract with Mercedes to join their junior program. He additionally won the 1990 Macau Grand Prix as well after a feisty battle with Mika Hakkinen. 1991 would see Michael compete and make appearances in various categories like Japanese Formula 3000, German Touring Car Championship, 24 Hour of Le Mans, which he impressed to come 5th overall with his Sauber Mercedes team, and the World Sports Car Championship in a disappointing campaign riddled with retirements. But after doing testing with Jordan and impressing, plus the fact that Bertrand Gachot got arrested for assault, saw Michael Schumacher get a F1 drive with Jordan, and he seriously impressed, out-qualifying 11-year veteran Andrea De Cesaris, but would retire on the opening lap of the race. He impressed so much that despite having a verbal agreement with Jordan to continue racing with them, Schumacher instead raced with Benetton for the remainder of what was left of the season, as they offered Schumacher a better contract and he would end up finishing in the points in 3 of the final 4 races of the season, with a career best finish of 5th overall. Additionally, he outqualified teammate Nelson Piquet, who just happened to be a 3-time world champion in 4 of the 5 races in which they competed in as teammates. Schumacher finished 14th overall with 4 points, which was really impressive with the limited races he had. I think one glaring thing we can take away from the analysis of the junior careers the two had is that Michael Schumacher looked like he could jump in a car and immediately get the very best out of the car from the get-go, and could instantly outperform drivers who had been in the sport for years. As for Mick, it looks like he needs more time to get accustomed to the car and the environment that he's in able to develop and start to get a proper handle of the car and get the best out of it. This is proven in his first seasons of F3 and F2, where he had average seasons in both of them, finishing outside the top 10. But he did in both instances finish first in the second season. So it also shows that once he gets familiar with the car and the environment that he's in, then he will flourish. Also, I added in Schumacher's first season in F1 because I want to compare the two situations these drivers were in. Michael was with both Jordan and Benetton for 1991. Both of these teams were in the midfield pack, and you could even say at times Benetton was sometimes fighting with the front runners. This helped Michael a bit compete with the upper middle pack to an extent and compete for points, while unfortunately for Mick, Haas will likely be one of the back markers once again in 2021, and will need to be hoping Haas can put together a better package for him in 2022, and definitely needs to outperform teammate Nikita Mazepin, which I think he will do anyway. So in conclusion, I don't expect Mick to set the world on fire in his first season, and it could even be a lackluster rookie campaign, but I think if he's afforded the time to develop with Haas, then I can really see him thrive. Will he ever be as great as Michael Schumacher? To be frankly honest, the chips are well stacked against him, and that's nothing against Mick. It just shows how much of a great driver and legendary driver Michael Schumacher was, and he's definitely one of the all-time greatest drivers to have ever graced Formula 1. And additionally, Michael Schumacher just set benchmarks so high, these benchmarks really will only be reached by a very few amount of elite drivers ever. Ideally for me, I don't really want to see Mick compared to his father. I know this basically contradicts the point of this video, but still. I just want to see Mick create his own legacy in the sport, for one that we will remember for as achieved by Mick Schumacher and not by Michael Schumacher's son. But you know what, if he can learn to develop and get accustomed to F1 quicker, then who knows? He could very well become a F1 champion himself, and after that, who knows, the sky's the limit for him, but only time will tell on this. What are your thoughts on Mick Schumacher? Do you think that Mick Schumacher has a bright future in F1? Do you think he has the potential to become one of the best drivers in history? Subscribe to the channel for more content. I would really appreciate this from this particular video since I put a lot of work into this one, and be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it.